fear and excitement light up the same neural pathways in your brain. If you strap on one of those brain scanners and you feel fear or you feel excitement, your brain looks exactly the same, which means you get to choose whether something is exciting or it is fearful. It is a choice. You're not feeling fear. You're having a data point that you get to choose whether that data point is positive or negative. But either way, it's just a data point. You're not wrong for feeling fear.
Ryan Hanley, welcome to Quick Before You Forget.
Oh my gosh, it's such a pleasure to be here.
I am so excited for my friends to get to know you better. So, you guys, Ryan is an amazing TEDx speaker. He's a keynote speaker, he's an entrepreneur, and he is a founder of Finding Peak, where he helps leaders cut through noise and build lives and businesses with ruthless clarity. He's delivered more than 400 keynotes, built and sold a company, and is known for challenging high performers to stop chasing someone else's version of who they should be and what success looks like. What makes Ryan different isn't what he's built, it's what he's walked away from and what he's learned about choosing your life on purpose. So, what this conversation, Ryan, looks like is a walk through the past, present, and future of your life. How does that sound?
Sure. Sounds great.
Well, I'm grateful you're here. And normally I start a little different, but I wanted to start today by asking kind of a two-part question that is based in that challenge and that clarity that you offer people. So, what is the cost of chasing a life that looks good on the outside but feels off on the inside is the first part. And the second part is, when in your life did you realize that you were succeeding at the wrong game?
I think the cleanest way to describe the answer to your first part of your question is regret. And I know there's been some work done recently around regret being a positive thing. I've read that. I think it's nonsense. I think regret, you can try to spin regret to be a positive, but I don't think anyone feels it that way. And I don't think regret is always acute. I think it's portrayed as acute in stories or in movies. I oftentimes think that we feel regret and how it presents in our lives is this dull haze. And I don't want to get too nerdy on you, but I'm nerdy in general. If anyone has ever studied science or space in particular, there is this cloud that we can't see past. When we point our telescopes into the sky, we hit a certain point, it becomes fuzzy and gray, and we just can't see past that point. And I feel like when we aren't, when we feel unfulfilled, when we feel disconnected from our purpose, our meaning, which is very easy to do, and all of us will experience this at some point in our life, it is this dull, fuzzy haze that we can't see past, that we don't understand, but it's there, and it manifests as frustration, as discontent, as dissatisfaction, as um, lacking stillness, lacking clarity, and it presents in many different ways. But it is this base part of us that we just wake up with every day, and we maybe can't even articulate. Um, but a lot of times it stems from regret. I'm not doing X. I should be X. I wish I was X or Y, and I'm not. And um, there's a lot of different reasons for that. But when I work with someone, if we can start to at least name what that is, if we can bring words to it and start to actually examine and understand what it is, then we can start to figure out how to get past it. It's not always regret sometimes, and I don't mean to go too far off context. You can pull me back in here, but sometimes we manifest regret for things that we don't even actually want. And I think that is unfortunately one of the downsides of social media and the way media is presented today and the world is presented to us is that no matter what you do, it's not good enough. And that's a very difficult thing for people to do. I went so long I forgot the second half of your question.
No, that's okay. So, I mean, you said a lot of good and important things in there, but my question was how it kind of impacts you. Like, when did you
Yeah, yeah.
know that you were working and succeeding at the wrong game?
Yes. So I had a very clear moment in 2017. Um, I had risen from a local independent insurance agent. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just local business person. And I had done a few things that had put me on the national stage in one particular industry. In this case, it was the insurance industry. And I started to get asked to do keynotes and speak and do workshops. And it was it it was the closest thing to the high of playing sports in high school and college that I could possibly feel as an adult. I felt like I had lost that. I didn't know how to get it back. And then all of a sudden, I'm on stage telling stories and interacting with an audience. And I'm like, oh my God, I love this. And I bought into the whole thing. I bought into the hype, into the social media, and I said yes to everything. And I was on the road. I think one year I did in 2016, I think I did something like 50 plus keynotes. And I had two young kids at home and I had a wife at home. And I was on another planet. I was not being a good parent. I was not being a good spouse. I wasn't being a good caretaker or steward of my family and in my portion of that role. I basically was completely captured by this notoriety that had kind of seemingly come out of nowhere for me, and I convinced myself, and this is where I get to the regret part. I had convinced myself that I was doing it for my family. I was able to mentally justify leaving them leaving them far too often, being disconnected, not present at home, working 16, 18-hour days, um, and in some cases just work to work, just because I thought that's what you had to do if you wanted to be successful. And in 2017, I had ground I had stress and anxiety because I was trying to become this thing that I had in my mind that I thought I was supposed to become. And at the same time, I knew in the back of my mind that I wasn't taking care of my family at home and there was tension and I wasn't working out. I wasn't eating right. I was masking the feelings of pain or frustration or dissatisfaction that I had across the board with alcohol, not necessarily in like I'm getting bombed all the time way, but it was like that. I need to have a drink every night to like calm myself thought that it starts to like leak into your brain. So like I'm not taking care of myself. And I was the MC of a conference in 2017 called Elevate. And um, before I went out to introduce the closing keynote, I passed out backstage, like literally sack of potatoes to the floor.
Oh my God.
And it was basically exhaustion. I was like I said, I wasn't taking care of myself. I was filled with anxiety, filled with stress, and my body just couldn't take it. And it was a huge wake up call to say, like, do I even want to be this thing that I'm trying to become? And then I started to have massive, and this is where the regret comes in. Then I started to say, well, all I've ever really wanted to be was a great role model for my boys. And I want to be a good husband. And I want to, these are characteristics of who I want to be. And I want to be a good steward of the people who listen to the things I say. And I'm not even living the life that I would coach people on. And I would tell people that, help and trying to help people do the things that could make them happy. I wasn't living that life either. And I'm like looking in the mirror going, you're a freaking joke. Like you're telling people, hey, we need to, have a fit mind and have a fit body and be good stewards of our family and our finances and these things. And not that I didn't do pieces of those things, but I was excusing away my discipline and commitment to the ideals that I put out into the world. And that just smashed together 3 minutes before I walked on stage to introduce the closing keynote. And it was a revelatory moment for me. I, it wasn't like I was down and out forever. I was not able to bring that last speaker on. I was unfortunately, and which then caused embarrassment. And I said, this will never happen again. And it was that changed the course of my life. Was that moment? And I said, if I'm gonna be able to sit here and talk to you and share my story with your audience and with my own audience on my own podcast and in my keynotes and in the people that I coach, like this seems obvious, but like I gotta live that life. Like I can't be I can't know the path and not walk the path. That it's completely disingenuous and disconnected. And unfortunately, I believe in soul. I'm a Christian. I believe in all these things. And I think eventually the universe catches up to you and says that that disconnect cannot last forever. And I don't love that I had to hit that moment to learn the lesson. But at the same time, here, almost a decade later, I'm glad it happened because anytime I feel myself straying, I just go back and relive that moment and the feelings that I had and said, you promised yourself, you made a commitment to yourself that you would never put yourself back in this position, get back on the path. And, that's one of the ways that I recalibrate today.
Wow. Thank you. And what I heard in that story was that things were fractured. Like things were, broken is the wrong word. Fractured, I'll stick with fractured. And were you okay? Like what happened after you passed out?
Uh, I drank some water,
Okay.
sat there in embarrassment of only my own design. No one even knew other than the three or four people that were backstage, and all of them were very good. But I just kind of sat. I sat off to the side where no one could see me, and I watched the closing keynote and pulled myself together. And then as soon as the conference was over, I did all the thing. I'm talking to people and all the things that you do when you're kind of in that position and making
Yeah.
sure things were handled right, and kind of acted as if nothing had happened that day, just to kind of get through it. It wasn't like there was nothing intrinsically or systemically wrong with me from a health perspective. It was just a point where the stress of the 2 days of being there, the not taking care of myself, the other anxiety that I had been carrying and ignoring for so long, it just, smashed together in that moment, and my body just gave up. And luckily no long-term effects other than, a moment in time in which I can look back to and say, this is what your life becomes when you don't walk the path. And it's why today, and I know if anyone's a fan of The Mandalorian, they'll have heard this before, but I close every piece of content that I create today with the phrase, this is the way. And I use that as a reminder, not necessarily to my audience, but to them as well, but mostly to myself of like, what I love about the phrase, this is the way in The Mandalorian, if anyone's ever watched it, and if you haven't or you're not a Star Wars fan, that's fine. But
No,
essentially,
they should all watch it.
yeah, you should. But I get that some people just buck at sci-fi in general, so
Fair.
that's fine. Um, this phrase essentially is an acknowledgement of a code between these people, Mandalorians. And what I love about Mandalorians is that they are not a race.
Hmm.
There's you can be in the world, in the universe of Star Wars, you can be any race from any planet. You can be everything from royalty to a homeless person on the street. And if you choose to walk the path, you can be a Mandalorian, which I love because I think it brings together the idea that, we're not black, white, yellow, purple, brown. We're not man, woman, whatever. We are, it is a mentality. It is a mindset that brings us together.
Hmm.
And in their case, they had a code and whether whether the code was easy or hard, you walk the path. And when their way of acknowledging that to each other was this idea of this is the way. And so I've kind of taken that and brought it into my own world to the idea that I have this set of beliefs and code that I've found when I walk the path, the way, yields satisfaction, peace, love, connection, fulfillment, meaning, purpose. And whether that's easy or hard, that's the way. and you just have to live it.
I love so much about what you just said. I am a Star Wars fan, and I did get to take a picture with Mando when my family
Oh,
was in at Walt Disney World a couple weeks ago. So
amazing.
that was really cool, and his
Yeah.
armor and everything, the detail is insane.
Yeah.
But there's so much in what you said that resonates for me personally, just with, being on this path. I'm also a Christian, and I talk about God's yellow brick road for me, and that is my path. And I'm increasingly grateful for all of the incredible people, shapes, colors, sizes, all of the incredible people that have been part of my journey and joining me on this path. It's just been such a blessing. So, when you were, it makes me wonder, like when you were feeling fractured on the path, and you talked about like the beliefs and the code, like what beliefs do you have that helped you get through and kind of piece things back together again and get really clear after that happened to you with fainting and stuff?
So I have always struggled with organized religion. I was raised an Irish Catholic. I still go to Catholic church. There's a lot that I like about the Catholic church. There's a lot that I don't, and I've always struggled with it. But my relationship with God and connection to God in particular has always been very strong. And in the moments where I have cultivated and purposely cultivated my relationship with God have been the moments in which I found the most clarity, peace, and by peace I don't mean like sitting cross-legged in the grass. I mean a level of comfortability with who I am and the way that I operate and how I present to the world. That's what I mean by peace. Peace in my soul, not necessarily peace in my actions, right? You can be at peace and at war at the same time, internally at peace and externally at war. And by war, I don't necessarily mean dropping bombs. It could be your company is struggling and you got to bear down and quote unquote go to war, right? You got to dial in and get after it. Like um, some people struggle with violent rhetoric, I guess, but to me, that's just being weak-willed and weak-minded, not necessarily. So the where what I found to answer your question, um, Jordan Peterson was rising to prominence at that time, and for whatever anyone thinks of Jordan Peterson, I will hold him in regard my entire life because his work at that time, he was doing a massive amount of YouTube videos. He was on tour speaking, and he wrote this book, 12 Rules for Life. And 12 Rules for Life was a pivot moment. Because when I read 12 Rules for Life, it taught me a few things. First and foremost, that we have to live in reality. And I think a large portion of the disconnection and discontent that we feel daily is that we're not living in reality.
Hmm.
And this can take a lot of different forms. So when I'm working with someone one on one, which is my preferred way to work with people, uh, oftentimes the first hurdle we have to get over is that they have some perception which is not based in reality that is driving them, that is causing whatever the issue is. So what does that look like? That could be I have a good job that I worked hard to get. I have a spouse that is still in love with me. I have kids that I appreciate. Yet I wake up every day as if I'm a failure. Well, what's happening there? Because in reality, you're making six figures, you're paying your bills, your kids are doing great, there's food on the table, your spouse and you are able to communicate and get along, which is not an easy thing to do. I mean, living with any other adult human is incredibly challenging, let alone the dynamics of a marriage, regardless if it's, straight, gay, whatever, it doesn't matter. When two humans live together who love each other, there's a lot of challenges there. And by all accounts, if you were to take a manifest of your life, you're doing great. Yet you saw someone that you went to college with is driving a Ferrari on Instagram, and somehow you feel like your life isn't everything that it should be. And I actually had a client a few months ago, and I tried to cycle off my clients. I try not to be there for that. Unless they need that and want that, that's fine. But my goal is to help course correct and then let them learn, give them the building blocks to learn these things on their own. So this was in the fall, and this was his issue. He had this. He's like in his head. He kept saying, and I'm using this Ferrari example because this is what his problem was. He's like, oh my, I've done all these things, but I don't have like a nice car and blah blah. And I'm listening to him going. I said to him like, okay, so let's just take this in for a second. You like your job. Yeah, I like my job. And you make good money. I'd like to make a little more, but I make good money. Okay, fair enough. Get that. But you make good money. Yes, okay. And you and your wife go, yeah, we get along. We do well. We go on date nights. Okay, great. That's nice. Kids are doing good. Kids are thriving. Awesome. Okay. So your big frustration, the thing that is keeping you up at night, the anxiety that the feeling, the drinking too much, the eating crappy food, the extra 25 pounds that you don't like about yourself that you're carrying around, that's because you don't have a Ferrari? I said, bro, you live in New Hampshire. What are you going to do with a Ferrari in New Hampshire? Like, you can only drive it like 3 months out of the year. There's potholes everywhere. So it's not like you can drive it fast. Like, I live in the Northeast. This is not a knock on New Hampshire. If you live in Northeast, there are potholes everywhere. You can't drive these low-rise sports cars anywhere because the roads aren't nice enough. So
Right.
like, what are we talking about? Let's come back to reality for a sec and let's ground success in reality. Is it what maybe the Ferrari isn't the thing? Like, is it just that you feel jealous of this person? And now we can start to do this, but we have to come back to what's actually happening here on the ground. And it looks another way in so much as we believe the world should work a certain way that it doesn't, right? So there's this version, this external version where we believe we should have things that we don't have, okay? There's this other way that we distort reality, and these are the two most common, in which we believe the world should operate in a way that it doesn't. As in, well, I've been here for 20 years. I should get that promotion. Are you the best person for the job? Did you tell them that you wanted it? What did you do that was exceptional that would make you the absolute choice for that job? Just that you've been here, like you think that this way it works? That's not the way the world works, right? Like, there's all these ideas that we allow into our lives that aren't how the world works. We don't have to like the way the world works. We don't have to like the fact that hierarchical organizations produce more results faster than flat organizations. They do. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that by saying that, it doesn't mean that the person who's towards the bottom of the hierarchy shouldn't have a voice or that they should be treated differently. Those are different issues. But we take this idea and we're like, everyone should be equal. No, that's not the way reality works. That's not the way reality works. It sounds great.
Yeah.
I can appreciate the ideal. I'm a Christian. I believe in God's eyes. We are loved. We are equal. I morally desire the same thing that you are asking for. Unfortunately, in the reality we currently operate, and maybe there's a different reality somewhere on some other plane of existence in which this isn't true, but on the one we currently sit on, right, there needs to be someone who's accountable throughout the organization for the various aspects of things happen. There needs to be someone in which the buck stops, and that's essentially what a well-run hierarchy does, is it allows levels of accountability and the ability to pass off work and bucketize and put people in teams, and these things are very important. Yet we'll start a company and create some crazy flat structure and then wonder why nothing gets done and why everyone's unhappy and no one knows what's going on and no one knows who the boss is and no one knows who should make a decision. And it's like, so to pull this all the way back in, the first thing that I learned and the first thing that I said to myself was, I am going to ground myself in reality, knowing that if I make bad decisions, those decisions are my fault because that's reality, right? I made those decisions. I decided to have too many drinks that night. I decided to not work on that project to the last minute. I decided to not acknowledge this team member who did a great job, and now they're feeling, misunderstood or unheard or not appreciated. Those were my fault, my responsibility, right? So it was reality first, and then reality leads to accountability. Accountability leads to responsibility. And from there, now we can launch into the places that are actually going to produce real results for us.
So from there, you start to work on things like getting clear on things,
Mhm.
like how, because you walk through those steps, and I think that a lot of that work is required before you can even start to work on being clear.
Mhm.
So when you start to work on being clear, you I think you say like you people don't have a potential problem, they have a clarity problem. So
Yes.
what does that actually look like in real life? And how do people then level up past what those other steps and that other work that we were talking through?
Yeah, not to stroke Jordan Peterson too much, but he has two
I
things
do
that
have
frame.
his book here somewhere. I
Yes.
was gonna look for it and try to grab it out, but I do have that book in
Yeah,
this stack here.
so he says two things on so I have this phrase, it's written down on a whiteboard that's in my office, which is in the room next door. What you focus on is who you become. And a lot of different versions of that. It's just the version that I use, short, concise, and works for me. Essentially, the origin of the word sin is not negative, it's to miss your mark. So he says two things on this particular topic. One, if you have the option, aim up, right? Don't aim down, don't aim across, aim up. Because if you aim up, even if you miss, you're going to be in a better place than you were, right? Aim up. And to sin is simply to miss the mark. That's all it is. It's to miss the mark. So what that means is you take a shot and you miss. All that happened was you missed the mark, but keep shooting, right? Aim up and keep shooting, but be clear on the target that you're going after. So I believe, and this was my fault until 2017, I had no idea what I was aiming for. I was just more social media followers, more this, more time, more work, more. Just give me what I wanted to be, who I actually was, what I stood for. I was just, it was whatever would get me more, right? Whatever I need to say, whatever. I hate talking about social media tactics, but people would pay me. So, oh, you'll pay me to talk about social media tactics? Sure, I'll show up and talk about so. I don't care about it beyond at the time was relatively good at it, et cetera. But oh, you want me to talk about this? Sure, I'll do that. Oh, you want me to do this consulting gig, even though I can't stand it? Sure, I'll do that because more. There was no aim. I was all spread too thin, all over the place, no idea who I wanted to be. Okay. After 2017, and I started to learn these ideas. And really, I had heard some of these things before, but it was Jordan's work and then many others that when I really went down this path that started to frame to say, okay, you're going to become the thing that you spend the most time on. So what is that thing going to be? If I'm going to be a social media tactics speaker, then that's the thing I need to spend time on. Except I don't spend time on it because it's not what I want to be. What do I want to be? Well, I I figured out through I started going to therapy at the same time, and I figured out something about myself that I kind of knew but could never put my finger on, which was I've never gotten satisfaction out of my own achievements. I feel the most satisfaction in supporting or helping or guiding others to their achievements. That's where, when I sit back and I see, say, there's a guy in the insurance industry who's doing really well in the speaking circuit. Insurance industry is my native industry for those listening. Um, and when he did his first gig and he wasn't real happy with it, whatever. And I had been speaking for a while. He called me and we started working through and talking about what did he really want to be? Who did he want to be? Who did he want to be on stage? What was the energy, presence? What was the performance that he wanted to give? What was the outcome that he wanted the audience members to experience? What were the emotions? He crushes now. Now, it was his work, right? I would like, hopefully I guided him in this path, but it's his work. Watching him today, I I would rather he gets the great gig and dominates and see him do amazing than necessarily myself because I'm so happy for him and feel so much satisfaction in helping him get there. So once I learn that part about myself, and that will be different for everybody, that's just me, then I could start saying, well, what is the work that allows me to do that thing? If I know my passion, what I could show up every day is supporting and being of service to others, then how do I start to build my life towards that? And then every decision from that point was, does this help me serve others? Does this help me serve um, men who have stagnated in their career, given up on their lives, are not the husbands, are not the fathers that they want to be, that are not the leaders that they want to be, right? That feel this sense of frustration and regret and pain and are thus not the positive community members, not the positive influences on the people around them they should be, right? So now every decision moves me towards that thing because I have clarity and focus on it. And when someone comes to me with, hey, we'd love you to come speak about social media tactics, I can be like, I very much appreciate it and thank you, but no, that's not me. And that took me a long time to get there. Today, I feel very dialed on that. I feel very confident in what my mission is and how I show up every day. But man, beforehand, like today versus, the day before I collapsed in 2017, I was a maelstrom. I was an absolute disaster. Even though outwardly people would have said I was very successful, internally I was not.
So I resonate a lot with what you said. And the thing that I heard in a word was impact, and that being a really important kind of almost like a core value part of your mission. And one of the ways that you bring that to life for people is with your becoming undeniable work.
Yeah.
We can't go deep on it right now, but we can scratch the surface for some folks that need to start. Like they're at that 2017 version of you, and they need to they can't get to here tomorrow. But
Yep.
what is the first thing? What is something simple and replicable in one move, one idea that you can tell us or share with us about how you start to take that step and how you become undeniable?
Gotcha. I'll give you guys an acronym. It's PEAK, PEAK. Stands for Presence, Energy, Awareness, and Calibration with a K, because I didn't want to spell peak with a C. So when I find myself in a moment where when I find those feelings of dissatisfaction, disorientation, frustration, maybe even a bit of anger, regret, self-doubt, I just walk myself through this exercise. Am I present? So it starts with P. Am I present? Am I present right now? Or am I living in the future or the past? Okay. If I'm living in the future, I'm most likely saying, why don't I have this? Why am I not this thing? If I'm living in the past, it's regret, right? It's I should have, I wish I would have, if onlys. Oh my God, if onlys destroy more quality thoughts than anything else, right? Am I present in this moment? Because when we're present, it's very tough to be dissatisfied, frustrated, or angry when we're present in the moment. Because when we're present in the moment, we're taking in the experience that we're having, right? We're interacting with the world right now. We're not allowing our brain. I don't know if you've ever read The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, but I believe that we are not our brain and we are not our body. We are our soul. And when we are present, we are living in our soul and understanding that our brain and our body are just vessels to connect with this plane of reality, right? But we are our soul. We're here right now. I'm here with you. I'm watching your body as it reacts to the words I'm saying, right? I'm present in this moment. I'm not thinking about things I have to do later today. I'm not thinking about what happened this morning. I'm right here with you. I'm present. It's very tough to be dissatisfied in the present moment because you're operating, you're living, connecting. Okay. Am I present? What is my energy level? Am I low energy or am I high energy? If I came into this call with you and I was low energy, then my expectation cannot be that I'm going to give my best performance, right? Because I'm low energy right now. And it's okay. We all cycle through different levels. Sometimes you're low energy and you did nothing wrong. It's okay. But when we understand what our energy level is, we can respond appropriately. Awareness. What is happening around you? Are you aware of your position and what reality is in this exact moment? And then finally, we need to have a simple way of recalibrating back to where we want to be. So for me, that's the serenity prayer. So everyone can have a mantra. It could be Buddhist. It could be whatever works for you. There's literally no right or wrong answer to whatever your recalibration is. So what'll happen is I'll sit down and be like, am I present? Nah, man, I've been thinking about all this crap I have to do this afternoon all day. So instead of thinking about the call I'm on, the sales call I'm on, or thinking about this podcast, or thinking about something I need to create, or etc., all I'm doing is thinking about the future. Okay, come back in, be present. Okay, where's my energy level? Got a good night's sleep, fairly high energy. Okay, that one's good. Awareness, right? What's going on? Where am I right now? Am I in a good place? Where's my mental? I'm feeling some regret. Okay, let me settle myself and recalibrate back to center. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to understand the difference. And I'll say that 2, 3, 4 times to myself. And once I'm done, right, I'm now at least back to a place where I'm not spiraling. Once I get back to a place where my heart's not maybe pounding, I'm not feeling as much anxiety, I'm a little more calibrated, now I have a clear mind to actually start to understand how to fix more of the systemic problems. Because we can't get to fixing the systemic problems if we're constantly on this runaway spiral. We have to be able to recalibrate ourselves back to center. So by understanding our presence, our energy, and our awareness for the moment, and having a simple way of recalibrating, right, we can get back to that place and catch ourselves before we spiral off the planet. Right, that's kind of phase one. That's like your triage, your battlefield triage of having a way of not allowing yourself to waste an entire day because you got a text message from your parent who's bugging the crap out of you for something, who just told you something that frustrated the heck out of you, and now all of a sudden you're completely spinning off and you're missing all the things that you need to do for that day. Because what's going to end up happening is you spend all this time thinking about things that didn't impact your day. You're going to get to the end of the day and you're going to have even more regret because you're going to feel like you wasted 8 hours. And now the negativity is compounding on itself. So the first thing we need to have is, and again, peak is what I use, is a simple process. This is 90 seconds, guys. I'm not talking about sit down, cross your legs and kumbaya, right? This is I'm sitting at my desk. I'm in the middle of a Zoom call, right? And maybe I turn my monitor off for a quick sec, even though I'm still listening, and I just sit there for a sec, become present, say your recalibration, feel your energy come back, be more aware of your surroundings, turn your camera back on, and now you're back to go. Now you're not spiraling off. I will get back to that thing. I will respond to that text message. I will deal with that email when it's time to deal with it. Let me get through my day. Let me handle this thing right now. If we can keep ourselves from spinning off the planet, we can address the bigger issues. But if we're constantly chasing that thing, constantly out ahead of ourselves, and unaware and unpresent, then we almost have no chance. So it's have a simple tool, right? Have a simple tool for recalibrating yourself and getting yourself back to being present in the moment. And you'll find, even if you have to do it 3, 4 times during the day, right? That's okay. It's not meant to fix all your problems. It's meant to keep you from spiraling and losing more time.
I'll tell you what, I could have used this simple tool like 6 years ago, 7. I mean, thank you for that gift because it was truly a gift because I think that it's easy to remember. I think you can walk through it, like you said, like 90 seconds or so. And it's simple enough that I think, you could use it 17 times in a day. And darn it, I probably will.
Yeah.
So
And
thank you.
sometimes you need to, right? I
Right.
mean, and
Yeah.
that's okay. I think not to jump in, but I think what you just said is really important. Like, I've done a tremendous amount of work on myself, tremendous. And every day is still a battle. Like, and again, this goes back to living in reality. Like, my expectation is no longer that any day is going to be perfect. There's no such, I don't even expect to have a perfect day. If a day goes amazingly well and I find myself on a beach with a drink, next to someone that I love, having a great time, staring at the ocean, the weather's beautiful, that's amazing. I love that, just like anyone else does. But that's not my expectation. My expectation, right, is that the day is going to have really good points. It's going to have messy points. There are going to be days that are just all mess. There are going to be days that are all amazing. And my goal is to stay as focused as I can on the thing that is my purpose and my meaning, brings me joy, contentment, satisfaction, right? And just recalibrate back to that whenever I spin off. The fact that there's a day where you need to recalibrate 17 times there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Your life isn't a problem. You're not a mess. I hate when people have negative self-talk around, oh, my life, I'm just a mess. No, You just haven't been taught the tools yet to help pull yourself back in, because everybody feels this every day.
Yeah.
So, and I can say that for certainty because in 2017, by all outward measures, people would have said that my life was this massive success and I felt terrible about myself. So it's okay to have those feelings, but we need to be a little more focused and start to develop the tools to bring ourselves back in. But just because you have one moment during the day, you're not wrong, you're not broken, you're not a mess. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just a human being, and that's what reality looks like.
Wow. Like yes. And I want to know because I know we're not focused on the past, right? But I do want to know like what would you tell 22-year-old Ryan if you could?
Take more risks. I played it very safe early in my life. I have a weird. My life has had a very weird journey. Not weird. I shouldn't say weird. I find it. I use the word weird just to mean interesting. So take that vernacular for what it is. I sometimes
Well,
people.
share it with us. Tell us the weird story. I want to hear it. And
So,
you can use whatever word you need to.
so I grew up in a very poor, very small town in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York in the woods. And we used to say you could leave the doors open at night because the criminals lived in our town. They didn't rob in our town. And I remember as early as age 12 walking from my house to a friend's house. And I had a very distinct moment. There one street light in the middle of town, and I lived in town. And I was walking, and I remember looking there's three gas stations around this at the street light, and those are the only businesses in the whole town. And I remember walking through going, I gotta get out of here. Like, this can't be my life. Like, this can't be my life. Like, I gotta figure it out. And I became very entrepreneurial. I would collect bottles. I would wake up at 5:30 every morning and walk the streets of my town collecting bottles out of the recycling bin so I could make 40 bucks a week, right? I mean, we were poor. I mean, this is what we were. And got job. I started working at 13. I've worked since I'm 13 years old, through high school, through college. I've always had a job since I was 13. I became dedicated to school because I saw grades as one way of getting out of this town. I became dedicated to sports. I played college baseball because I that was another way to get out of this town, right? So I took risks. I pushed every AP class, like, and then I graduated college. And it was like I forgot what got me there. And I need to get a job with a big company and a salary and a 401k and health benefits, and I need to have the security of a big company. And I went to work for this company in Washington, D.C., RSM McGladrey, which is a large accounting firm. At the time, they were the fifth largest in the country. I have no idea where they are now. And there's nothing wrong with RSM McGladrey. Perfectly fine people, treated me great, so not a knock on them. But it was just very safe. It was very boring for me personally. I wasn't an accountant. I was a math major, so I was like an occult consultant there. Essentially, I was like an interpreter for the nerds because I kind of knew numbers, but I also knew people. So I was like the guy that they would talk to communicate with the accounting
Like the
nerds. That was
translator.
kind of my
Yeah.
role. Yeah. And I hated every second of it. I worked there for 4 years, and it was nothing. Again, nothing against RSM McGladrey. I hated every second of it. And I was like, well, maybe it's this company. So then I went and worked for American Express and worked on the 17th floor of I think it was World Trade Center 3 was the one that didn't fall. I had to walk by the hole every day, which was depressing.
Oh, wow.
But same scenario. Perfectly fine job, perfectly fine people, perfectly fine company. Hated every second of it. And I played this very safe. And then I went into insurance and I was very safe and everything was safe and I was miserable. And it wasn't until again, 2017 that I had that moment of just like a large part of I think what I was feeling at that time was I felt like I was capable of so much more. And like that's why I was just grabbing at everything. It was like a rubber band after having played it safe for almost a decade up to 2017. It was like a rubber band snapping forward. Like I had played it safe for so long. Then I started to get this little bit of notoriety and people wanted to know what I thought. And they were asking me on podcasts and asked me to speak. And it was just like, oh, this is my chance. Let's go. And I feel like if I could go back to 22-year-old version of me, and if I had started, if I had focused more on taking the risk to live the life that I wanted, which I always wanted to be a performer. I always wanted to help people. I love being out on stage. I love telling stories and I love telling jokes. I love this, right? Communication. If I had gone into that thing then, even though it would have been more challenging, no safety net, all those things, I believe I could have worked through a lot of those issues and I wouldn't have had to have a moment where I collapse with two small children, you know what I mean, at home and a spouse who doesn't want to talk to me because she hasn't seen me in months because I've been on the road and all these kind of things, right? Like, so I would love to go back and tell that guy, like, whether you're, everyone's like, I hate when people are like, "I'll go back and tell my younger self, like, everything's going to be okay." I don't freaking know if everything was going to be okay.
Right.
But I think I would have enjoyed that life more. I for a decade of my life post college, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy my life. I didn't enjoy it. I was living this version that I thought I was supposed to because I went to a top 30 school. I went to the University of Rochester. And when you come out of there, you go get a big job with a big company, and that's what you do. And that's not me. That's never been me. And I knew that wasn't me. That wasn't the me that got me to that moment. And I allowed myself to believe the lie, not living in reality, that I could change who I was because that's who I was supposed to be.
Mm.
And, probably my biggest regret in life is that I allowed myself to believe that narrative.
We've all been there though. Like we've all
Mhm.
chosen that safety over taking the risk. And sometimes it's forced and sometimes we choose it. Either way, it's not always easy to decide, you know what, actually I'm not going to be safe anymore. I'm going to try the scary big thing that scares the crap out of me, like starting a podcast that nobody knows about right now when I am currently unemployed and making $0. I'm going to do the thing. And it's scary. It's absolutely scary. And so what I heard you say, so worth it.
Yeah.
And you avoid that regret then and you avoid, and what I heard you say without saying these words is that you are living in alignment now, and you were living in disalignment before, misalignment, whatever the proper English is. But that's powerful. Like, and
Yeah.
I want to encourage anybody that's like the listening or watching to know that it's a decision you get to make today. You can decide to figure out who you are right now, today, and use that information to direct your path and start, work through the peak and just work through all of those things that mean they may be scary, but you do it anyway because then you don't have that regret. So thank you for sharing that whole story. And
Oh,
you
yeah.
you did light up a little bit when you talked about your two boys. So I want to know what they've taught you about all this.
Oh my gosh. So they're probably the thing that I'm the most proud of in my life. Um, I think I like being around them. I don't think everyone can say that about their kids. Um, I think that's another reality. It doesn't mean I like them every moment of every day. I mean, they can be little shits, but I
Six,
think,
seven.
yeah. Oh my God, Jesus. I mean, they can do things and say things that just, but they also, they are such a reflection. Like our kids are such a reflection of us, right? If your kids are not fun to be around, you made them that way. You know what I mean? You allowed them to become that thing. It's one of the beefs that I have, and I don't mean to go slightly contextual here, but it's one of the beefs that I have when people talk crap about younger generations. The millennials are this, Gen Z is this, Gen Alpha is this, and I'm like, how do you think they got that way? Do you think that this like entitlement thing? Everyone's like millennials are entitled, and frankly, I think they are a little entitled. But it's not they didn't. It's not like they woke up one day and they're like, I choose to be entitled.
Right.
That's not what happened, right? So they were the environment, the morals, the values, the constructs that were put in front of them, how they were taught, how they were incentivized, right? that's how they got to this place.
Yeah,
And that's broad stroking, but you get my point.
I do.
So in my kids, what I see is the ability to say is a constant reminder that I have a greater responsibility than myself, which is launching them out into the world, not with the tools to be the whatever version of them that they choose to be, right? I don't get to dictate their life to them, nor do I want to dictate their life to them, nor do I want them to be reliant on me. At 10 and 12, I don't want them to be reliant on me. I certainly don't want them to be reliant on me as adults. So my job and what I love working with them on is helping trying to put the building blocks in place for them to figure out who they are and work towards becoming that thing. And I think it starts with our relationship with God, starts with our understanding of family, of responsibility, of personal accountability, and all these building blocks. Now, I think done right, it also forces us to become the best version of ourselves. So I see them as a constant reminder that I can never fall off the path again. Is if my son at 12 sees me become a lunatic again, where I'm chasing opportunities and scatterbrained and missing baseball games and needing to pop a beer every night to land the ship or whatever stupid excuse we make for some of these things, like that's who he's going to become. Is that who I want him to become? Do I want him to become a frustrated, anxiety-ridden, stress-induced lunatic who doesn't understand his place in the world because he saw his father that way? Like, no, right? I see my responsibility is to show them as much as I can and as fallible as I am, the path, and that keeps me on the path. And now, certainly my older son and my younger son's getting there too. He's 10. Now they're old enough. We're starting to hold ourselves accountable to each other, right? So now they're old enough to see me do certain things and say, "Dad, you said you weren't going to do that." And that level of relationship and connection I cherish it more than anything else in my life. So, I think that I constantly, it's a constant reminder that my life is not mine. The day you have children, your life is no longer your own. And I think this whole narcissistic, secular, materialistic world that we've devised, where you have parents who care more about the bling on their wrist than the lessons they're teaching their children, is an absolute travesty. And I think we're doing our children a huge disservice. When you decide to have children, your life is not your own anymore. It's not. It's not your own. It never was your own. It was always God's. But
Right.
I think that's hard for a lot of people to swallow, especially people that are secular, and that's fine. You don't have to love God for God to love you. But
Amen.
certainly when you have children, your life is not yours. Your
Yeah.
Rolex doesn't mean shit. Your Ferrari doesn't mean anything. What matters is, are you building a foundation for your children to launch themselves into this world in the most successful way possible? And I don't know. It's the greatest challenge of my life. They're frustrating. It doesn't matter what you want them to do. They're their own people. You could teach them the same lesson 1,000 times. They still have to learn it themselves. Although I did have this funny moment the other day where I'm sitting in the car and I don't know, we got music going and we're driving to one of their basketball games or whatever. And the younger one said something and the older one spins on him and he's sitting in the front. He turns around and looks at the younger one and he's like, da da da. He says this. I'm gonna forget exactly what he said. But he hits him with this little ditty, right? And I was like, ooh, he is listening. Like that's the stuff I would normally say. Like, you know what I mean? It was like some like profound thing that I had probably barfed on him like 1,000 times.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, so they are listening. Okay.
Yes.
And so taking this all the way to business life, like we need. Like these relationships seem natural. This mentor-mentee relationship that you would have with your children seems very natural in a familial environment. And through the work that I'm doing and the podcast and the various things that I do, I'm trying to help adults understand as well that type of mentor-mentee relationship is just as crucial adult to adult as it is adult to child. And we need to have mentors and we need to have mentees. And, there's just this, I think it's called plus one, minus one philosophy, which is we need to have one person in our lives who is a step ahead of us in the place that we want to go. And we need to be mentoring one person who is a step behind us. And what that creates is an apprenticeship relationship, the way that people used to learn how to shoe horses and build cathedrals and basically every job up until the last about 150 years, right, has been very much an apprentice relationship, and we need to be just as dialed in our mindset mentorship as we are in our craft.
We have a lot more in common than I realized. My boys are 10 and 12, and that same thing has happened to me, and it's been really cool. The coolest example of it I've already shared on the podcast more than once, but I'm going to share it again because it's so special to me. It was when we were on our way up an ascent of a 300-foot drop on Mako at SeaWorld, which is this like hyper coaster, and the drop is insane. And my 12-year-old, he was younger at the time, but my 12-year-old goes the whole way out. He was so nervous. My 10-year-old is like the brave, reckless one had 3 broken bones and burned his face and the whole thing. He's just like I'm not worried about his level of pushing boundaries, right? The older one is not, he's a little more safe, is a little more, nervous. So the whole way he was so nervous, and then we're going up this thing and he's freaking out. He's like, "We're dying, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying." The whole way up. And then we got to the top, 300 feet in the air, and we're start dropping and he goes, "No, I'm alive," the whole way down. And I was like, "Huh, they listen." Like that mindset shift of like choosing excitement over fear happened in real time in that moment. I was so grateful. So I love when we have those moments as parents when our kids show us that they are listening. Sometimes I don't love it because it's like, oh shoot, they're listening. But
Yeah,
also,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
we love it because yes, they're listening. So it's just it was cool to hear you talk through all that because I was hearing myself, and that's I took a guess with your kids' ages with the 6-7 reference, but I was spot on. And it's really cool. So your time is precious and I'm so grateful. I have one more question and I do want you to talk through your podcast and all the exciting things that you're doing. But well, two more questions. Is that okay? Do you have time?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. You mentioned music in the car with your sons, and that made me happy because music is one of my tools in my tool belt that I use to build my unreal life. What
Mm-hmm.
is your song of survival? Do you have a song that you go to in a moment when you're grounding yourself and maybe working through the peak in your head?
Hmm. It's not a song. Um, just about anything from Wu-Tang.
That's shocking and not at the same time. I love it.
So when
Um,
my older son was 7, this my relationship to curse words and inappropriateness is probably not age appropriate, but I also um I just I don't necessarily believe in sheltering our children. I mean, I think there are some concepts that are above them,
yeah,
especially some hypersexual kind of things, explicitly. But like, I think we, I think we shelter our kids too much. I think we
yeah,
pretend like they are not completely aware of everything that's going on in the world.
yeah.
So, so that's a different topic. But at 7, he was 7, my younger one was 5, and they started wanting to have control of the music, and their mother, who I'm divorced. We've been divorced for 4 years now, but we get along great. It's not combative, but their mother listens to like teeny bopper, top 40, like trap nonsense music that like I feel is soulless. I can't listen to it. So I was like, I can't listen to this crap that these kids listen to and stuff. Like I can't listen. I don't want to listen to this in the car. Like I'm driving. I don't want to have to listen to some nonsense, whatever the newest Bruno Mars, what teeny bopper song is. Like I don't want to do that.
Right.
So I was like, okay, guys, we're gonna start going like discotomy by discotomy. We're gonna start working through, and for better or for worse, the first album that we worked through was Wu-Tang Forever. And then we went to 36 Chambers. Then we did some of their solo stuff. And then we moved on to Jay-Z. And then we went to, this is really bad, but we went to NWA because I wanted to show them West Coast stuff and Snoop. And so then we started to mix in classic rock. So like I think they have a pretty firm affinity, like on their playlist, which I think is funny because we share a Spotify account, so I can
Yeah.
see their playlist.
Yeah.
It's like Metallica, then it'll be like a Wu-Tang song, then it'll be like some, you know, Kendrick Lamar, then it'll be like the Beatles, and I'm like, I feel like I did something right.
You
Like I
did it
may have
right.
messed up everything else,
Yeah.
but this eclectic, crazy, eclectic, classic rock, kind of like my younger one loves Nirvana, loves Nirvana. I'm like, I think it's amazing that there's a 10-year-old out there whose like favorite song is like Smells Like Teen Spirit. Like I think that's fantastic.
That's great.
So yeah,
Job,
it's probably
mission accomplished.
yeah, it's mission accomplished. Yeah. So something for me though, if I need to get kind of jacked up or, like it's my get after it, it'll be something Wu-Tang most likely.
I love that so much. And the eclectic nature of the kids' music is great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So good. One last thing
Yep.
is the megaphone moment. So if I handed you a megaphone and kind of everybody in the world had to listen to you for, 30 to 60 seconds, what would you say?
Hmm. I'm gonna give you a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of my favorite writers and thinkers of all time.
Same.
Um, it's from his it's a short story. It's called Self-Reliance. God will not have his work made manifest by cowards.
Amen.
Whatever that looks like for you, know that whether it's working for a nonprofit, being a stay-at-home mom, being a stay-at-home dad, being a good parent, being a good whatever that thing is, that work that needs to get done. He's not going to have his work made manifest by cowards. You got to get after it. You got to do it. You got to do the thing. You got to be willing. You know, it's going to be my last tattoo, which will be right inside part of my bicep. I have a sleeve from my wrist to the top of my shoulder, and the last part is the inside of my bicep. And I just started mapping it out, and I always knew that that's what it would be. Since the day I read that quote, I probably say it to myself every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Certainly, every time I feel fear for something, um, anytime I feel fear, I will remind myself, God does not have His work made manifest by cowards. So get after it. Doesn't mean that you're gonna win, but if you're cowardly, you got no shot. So might as well go down swinging.
I needed that. I mean, I love Ralph Waldo Emerson as well, and I knew that I know that piece of writing, and it's so true. And fear is not an easy thing to work through.
No, it's
So
not.
it's super helpful to have a very specific fear-related mantra. So I'm going to add that to my list. I have a small list of mantras that I say regularly, and I don't know why I hadn't had that one on there sooner. So thank you, sir.
You're very
Um,
welcome. Can
and
I
thank you,
finish one thought on fear before we
of
wrap up?
course,
I just want to say
please.
this for anyone that this helps, and I'm probably saying this as much to myself as anyone else. The fact that you feel fear is nothing more than a data point. Doesn't mean you're bad, wrong. It doesn't mean that you're lacking. It doesn't mean that you're worse. It doesn't mean that you're not blessed. It doesn't mean anything. It's simply a data point. It is your brain and your body saying, this does not align with survival. It's simply a data point. That's all it is. We have to remove our emotional attachment to fear. It is very difficult to do, and I miss and struggle with this all the time. So this is not me sitting on high telling you somehow I have zenned out fear from my life, right? I have that mantra because I feel fear often. And it reminds me that it's nothing more than a data point. And we can get so caught in because we feel fear, somehow I'm wrong or bad or not worthy. And none of those things are true. None of them. I've done 400 plus keynotes in my life. I feel fear before I step on stage every single time. every time. Actually, I probably feel more fear today than I did when I started, because today there are expectations on my performance. When I first started, it was like the fact that I was there was enough, right? Now people have seen me enough times that there's a certain level of expectation of performance. So I feel fear that I'm not going to live up to that level of performance, right? But then today I also now have the tools, I guess you could say, in this case, a mantra, to be able to say, it's just a data point. And lastly, fear and excitement light up the same neural pathways in your brain. If you strap on one of those brain scanners and you feel fear or you feel excitement, your brain looks exactly the same, which means you get to choose whether something is exciting or it is fearful. It is a choice. You're not feeling fear. You're having a data point that you get to choose whether that data point is positive or negative. But either way, it's just a data point. You're not wrong for feeling fear.
I've been saying that, and it's the coolest thing that I know and that I live, that I wish I could share with everybody, is that fact, that scientific fact of what you just said. You get to choose. And that is in many ways, to me, that is the door to a bigger life. Like that is right there. Like, you opening that door and deciding to walk through it anyway is that's the path. So this is the way. And thank you, because goodness gracious, I've been finding the right moment to talk through that energy of the science. It's like, we're not making it up. We're not being woo woo. We're not, like, it's literally science. And thank you for that. So where can people find Ryan? Where can we book you for speeches and all the things?
Well, I appreciate that so much. RyanHanley.com, just my name, RyanHanley.com is a great place to start. You can find the podcast. I have a book coming out.
Woo woo.
Just started writing it, but I signed a contract with Ben Bella Books. So
I
Simon and
love
Schuster
Ben
imprint.
Bella. That's amazing.
Very
Ryan, good
excited.
job.
I have a great publisher. The book's going to be titled Easy Mode: How to Find Your Edge, Build Your Life Around It, and Remove Everything Else. So essentially what we talked about today. And if you want to learn more about the book, follow along in the journey, all those kind of stuff, RyanHanley.com is a great place to start.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again, Ryan. I am so pumped to follow all of that online. So appreciate your time today, your energy, your words, your soul, all of it. So we will see you guys next time on Quick Before You Forget. Thank you for being here with me today on Quick Before You Forget. Please like, share, and subscribe, as that helps the show so much, and I really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time on Quick Before You Forget.